The bigger the company, the more complex the company, the greater the need for security and compliance. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today when it comes to Zoom and Theta Lake. Coming up next. Zoom has an amazing portfolio of developers and partners that work with Zoom inside of Zoom, as well as the reverse, have Zoom work inside of them. Today, we're going to dive deep into a security and compliance partner called Theta Lake. I've actually done an interview with them before, and I wanted to circle back and revisit a new thing they have called Follow the User. So join me as I have a guest speaker once again. Anthony's going to join us and walk us through what Follow the User is and how that compliance and security feature will work in a Zoom environment. Enjoy. Well, thank you for being another victim again, Anthony. I think we've met before, and we did a video on basically the overall architecture and some of the functions and modalities that Theta Lake does and works with UCaaS providers. But I heard a rumor that there's even more we haven't touched on. So why don't you introduce yourself again and basically tell us why the hell you're here today?
Perfect. Sounds good, Patrick. So I'm Anthony Robinson. I'm excited to be here again for the second time and in the future as we continue to do these series. I'm a senior solutions engineer here at Theta Lake, supporting enterprise or upmarket accounts. So I do everything working with customers from architecture, infrastructure, integrations, solutions around specific workflows in order to capture content for regulated or monitored users. So really it's just kind of an industry of Theta Lake is a plug-and-play solution to allow you to compliantly capture, integrate into unified communication platforms like Zoom that we'll be talking about today. And I work to kind of build out the solutions around those from a technical perspective.
Well, thank you for the courage. I appreciate that. And I was just reflecting on I guess a career would be probably part of it. It was that I've been in this industry for a long time. And even 3 years ago when I first joined Zoom, I could probably go into literally any conversation with any customer talking about any topic and function and modality that Zoom had and feel like I had the confidence to really talk about everything. It's now advanced 3.5 years, and as Zoom has grown as not only a UCaaS provider, but then a CCaaS provider, and then basically a platform provider for communications and collaboration. And then as our partnerships have grown and our third-party integrations have grown, now, Anthony, my confidence is at an all-time low, I think, on what I could talk about when it comes to Zoom, other than from a conceptual basis sometimes. So that's why I recruited you, because I know we have a great partnership on compliance and security with Theta Lake, but guess what? I'm not a Theta Lake engineer. I'm not a Theta Lake expert. So that's why you got recruited today, just in case you were wondering.
No, awesome. I'm excited to be here from it and be your technical resource, your technical nerd here on the Theta Lake side. And you're right, the industry is changing so much, not just from a unified communications or contact center specifically, but also regulatory requirements are always changing, feature enhancements the Zoom platform's coming out with. It's a lot to keep up with. And I love these series that we can kind of educate the end user, customers, whoever's listening to this, so that they can kind of be brought up to speed and figure out what they don't know. Yeah, happy to be here.
Well, I always learn. That's the great thing about having guests that are way smarter than you. You walk away thinking, well, great, at least I learned something today. And I think especially when it comes to compliance and security, we've kind of, when I talk to customers about this, they are typically in the segments that I think you support. We're talking about mid-market, upmarket, even enterprise level, right? Is certainly when we're talking to even FinServ or healthcare or any sort of security and compliance, as well as regulatory verticals. This is a super important topic. And the more that Zoom can integrate with Theta Lake in this regard, it's literally better for everyone, I think.
It really is. Part of what we'll talk about is the enhancements or the enabling of the Zoom features to really kind of drive the return on investment around your Zoom licensing that you have for end users. Enabling features, we talked about that previously. We'll talk about it today, but lowering your total cost of ownership of a unified communications platform while enabling these features that are included with user licensing. So things like in-meeting chat, file transfer, file sharing, and specifically today, as we talk the topic of follow the user, this is going to be the ability to join external meetings and still keep all of these meeting features enabled for your users. So we're not disabling or inhibiting the ability for users to communicate and use the platform tools included with licensing. A lot of times what we see in the industry with these Zoom customers and these Zoom tenants or accounts, a lot of these features are disabled just because the customers don't know, how do we manage these? How do we enable these features? But then also, how do we monitor these for our monitored or regulated users so that they can use these platform features that we're paying the licensing for? But then how do we get communication to be more seamless? And that's kind of going to be what we talk today as part of our topics. And I'm excited to talk to you about it. But it's really one, as we go from A to Z, it's really enabling all of the platform features that you're paying in the licensing, not just for internal meetings, but then for external meetings as well. So as we talk partner engagements, customers, selling, traders maybe in these regulated industries, or government education. And we need to be able to monitor as these users go external on the Zoom platform to take their communications or their business workflows. Theta Lake is a great plug and play solution to enable a lot of these features we'll talk about.
And that's a great segue into the duality of where we're at today. I think in the UCaaS, CCaaS spot, again, platform spot, is that and I'm a little bit biased, I think it's come down to basically two players in this field, right? There's more than one player. We know that Microsoft Teams is out there, Zoom is out there. We all know there's a Ring Central's, WebEx's, 8x8's, Vonage. There's 100 different other partners out there. But I think the predominant upmarket and even mid-market and enterprise are seeing the benefit of having sometimes two solutions that are really kind of sometimes do some of the same things. And when we talk about Microsoft Teams, they already have a compliance and security part within the side of Microsoft Purview. But what you said is really resonating, because we did a webinar maybe a month or two ago, and I talked to the president of Metrigy, Erwin Lazar, and he talked about, when there's a two-horse race, which is the predominant amount of enterprises, when you have Teams and Zoom, users are choosing Zoom for some functions over Teams. And a lot of those are because of the external ability to have meetings that are smoother, quicker, higher quality, faster efficiency. But what you said is paramount, because, hey, we don't want to shut those features off internally to have these collaboration with our teammates and our colleagues. We still want all that security and compliance to go external when a seller's talking to customers and partners and vendors, and call centers are talking to support people, that are almost every single call is external at that point.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that's what we see. And up until now, there's, we'll kind of talk the Zoom platform, native features that they support, Theta Lake enhancements on top of that. You're exactly right. Most customers don't know about these features. They don't understand them. Or again, they just shut off these features, especially as they go external. And what we see is these end users are smart, users behind the keyboard. They're looking for kind of the easiest or the most seamless way to get communications out. And if we disable features administratively on our Zoom account, that forces them to other channels that may not be monitored, or we don't have a capture solution in place. Or it pushes them over to end-to-end encrypted platforms like WhatsApp or WeChat and WeMessage and those sort of platforms, where now it's, hey, we can't monitor those as well. We do have some solutions we can talk about in some future segments as we talk further about these other modes of communication. But specifically for Zoom, enabling these features keeps them on the platform. And then that, your total cost of ownership is what goes down, return on investment goes up, but then really your end users are consolidated to a single platform, and you don't have to have 3, 4, and 5 platforms. And just like you were saying, Patrick, everything that we see in the enterprise space, usually most of these enterprise companies do have 2 or 3 main UC platforms. This is a great way for them to consolidate or force an experience for the end users, and then leverage the tools that are included in those licensing.
There's a great quote. I don't know who said it. Basically, is the reason anyone buys anything, and this applies to software, to cars, to anything at Lowe's, right? It's because it solves a need and it does it easily. That's it. That's the whole reason anybody buys anything. And the more I think about that quote, the more I see how Zoom and Theta Lake work together in that regard. So I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit, and I'm gonna say, hey, we're doing a lot of talking. I get it, but maybe someone wants to see some of this stuff in action. Is that fair?
Yeah, let's go ahead. We can cut over to a demo. Perfect segue. And let me go ahead and share my screen. And then as we have questions, Patrick, feel free to interrupt at any time. This is fully interactive and informal as we always do it. And so we'll just start off here in the Theta Lake web portal, and then we'll go over kind of to a Zoom account and see what the account settings look like, and then what that looks like bringing these two systems together. So to get started, kind of from the get-go, the setup and configuration to get started. So Theta Lake here, as we've talked previously, our architecture and infrastructure is built in the cloud for modern collaboration platforms like Zoom. So we have pre-built integration. So as we go here under our policy tab, here we can see all of our content sources. These are all of our platforms and strategic partners that we've teamed up with to provide a seamless integration for initial setup and configuration, but then also provide flexibility for in the future that'll allow you as Zoom comes out with feature enhancements, more API support for the features that they have in production today. Theta Lake is going to be first of kind, and then we get early access to these APIs to be able to support these right out of the gate. So as we go into our collaboration platforms, you'll notice here in my engineering sandbox, I already have a Zoom eComms integration set up and configured. eComms is just where what we're doing in a Zoom meeting. So that's everything: audio, video, content, in-meeting chat, in-meeting direct messages, file transfers, GIFs that can be shared in chat, and then also things like reactions. This is where we can actually come and set up an integration. And then what Theta Lake supports is the ability to capture granular features that are included in the Zoom licensing. So as we look here at this integration that I have, my eComms integration, this is where I can select different modalities or features of the Zoom platform. So maybe if I'm a financial service customer and I need the ability to capture in-meeting chat or audio that's happening in meeting, and I'd like a transcript of that, I can granularly come in and say, hey, I don't need video. Maybe I just need audio. Maybe I need in-meeting chat. Maybe I need polling, Q&A, and transcripts. This gives the customer the granular ability to define what features of Zoom we're capturing. And then as we set up this integration, let me go ahead and show you here. As we go through our Zoom integrations, these are all pre-built OAuth integrations. What that means for our non-technical folks is I don't have to go and create an application in the Zoom marketplace or my Zoom tenant. I don't have to create credentials or app IDs or tokens and actually have to manage those. Theta Lake has pre-built integrations as part of our Zoom Theta Lake partnership. This is published directly to the Zoom marketplace. So as I click connect here, this will actually redirect me to the Zoom app marketplace. So I'm only going to need a Zoom admin user or a service account that has the correct marketplace applications. And I'm going to grant the specific scoped permissions on what I would like to do with that integration. So for the eComms archive application that we have in the marketplace, this will be the scoped permissions. You can go to the marketplace today. You don't have to sign in, search for Theta Lake, look at the application. We have a great description there. And then you'll be able to see all of the scope permissions that we can grant access to. Once administratively, I've gone ahead and clicked allow. This is where I can set up and complete the integration, and I can give it a name. So I'm just going to call this testing with Pat. And then this is where I can also define in my Zoom account what groups of users that I would like to capture this content for, and then what type of content I would like to capture. So again, some customers don't need video and audio for today, and maybe they just need in-meeting chat, or maybe if they just want audio, they can select based upon their regulatory requirements. Again, whether you're a FinServ customer, education, government, or if you have sensitive information and you have monitored users, select whatever content that you would like to be captured as the integration, and then we can go ahead and start this integration at any time. The great thing with Theta Lake and the Zoom partnership is we can go back and grab historical data. So as long as that data still exists within the Zoom cloud, we can go ahead and submit a ticket with our DevOps team. We'll go back historically and ingest that into the Theta Lake system. You can then store that data. I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Don't Start here just to test this. But here you'll be able to see the integration that we set up, a name, the platform we've integrated into, status of the integration, what service account or user admin we authenticated with. how much content has been received from the platform, and then when that integration was created. The great thing with this is I can edit it at any time, change those scoped permissions. In this case, when I'm ready to start the integration, maybe I'm in a sandbox environment or in a proof of concept, and I'm not ready for Theta Lake to start ingesting and capturing that data, I can come back and start this at any time. I can also pause or delete it. So if I don't want Theta Lake to have access anymore, this really is set it and forget it until you don't want to use it, or maybe you want to change accounts, tenants, or add new integration. It's really a self-service, and the web portal here is very intuitive to navigate and easy to use. Once the integration is set up and we're ready to start capturing content from Zoom, this is where customers, I'll just kind of touch on this lightly. This is where most customers will have an existing archive of record, like a Proofpoint, a Global Relay, or one of the other legacy archive vendors. Or maybe they have a cloud storage vendor like an AWS S3 bucket or an Azure storage bucket that they would like to leverage. We can integrate with these legacy archive systems, so we're not ripping and replacing these legacy systems. We're nearly an enhancement on top of it. Plus, most of our customers do like to do a what we call a dual archive or a dual storage. So they'll send that down to their existing archive of record, and they'll also have Theta Lake store that as well. Again, they can pick or choose AWS or Azure, and then that allows all of that content that's going to come in with Zoom as part of the eComms archive application capture. That's going to allow us to actually review all of that content in its native format. So as we've talked kind of through the configuration of setting up the integration where we would like that stored, we can define retention periods. Content will start to come into the Theta Lake system where we can then review that content.
I was hoping it would be a lot more complicated, honestly, Anthony, because I remember back in the day when I used to get paid to set up all these things that are super complicated, and you just did it like in 3 mouse clicks.
Yeah, typically when we go through this, we've actually done this with some of the legacy integrations or the connectors into the Zoom platform. And it's really like a 15, 16 step. And then you have to monitor those integrations. Theta Lake really provides a white glove solution to set up these integrations. The only thing that we need on the Zoom side, and we can of course follow up with documentation on this, or maybe we'll attach it to the video, but this is where we can have so from our Zoom account, this is where we're leveraging the archive solution or the archive feature that's already included in the Zoom licensing. So as part of as we define follow the user, this allows you to capture internal communications of these regulated or monitored users. And then we can also define those for external meetings as well. And I'll show a live demo of what that looks like with the demo account that I have set up here. So as we look at the Zoom tenant, it's really easy. It's just a couple of mouse clicks. We have this feature that's called archiving meetings and webinars. And this allows Theta Lake, the application that we just set up and integrated. This allows us to actually go and again, define on the Zoom side, what meeting features or webinar features do we need to compliantly capture and archive? And then we can define things like a notification, custom disclaimers that happen. So if I'm a user and I'm a regular user, maybe in a FinServ industry, and maybe I'm a day trader, I'm meeting externally with customers or potential customers. This is where, as I join external meetings, this archiving will actually record my external meetings. And then administratively, I can define for those users, I can give it a title, I can include a body text, and then I can also include links to URLs or maybe link to text messages, documentation, disclosure agreements, or things to that fact. And then that'll actually be presented as soon as a meeting starts. So whether I'm internal or external, as the host or the participant, as a regulated or monitored user, it's going to be a ubiquitous experience for me as well as administratively. So as I go externally to those meetings, I get to define here administratively what content I would like to capture, if I would like to retain that on Zoom so that Theta Lake can then capture that and ingest it into the Theta Lake system. And then we can see what can't be archived. So maybe I want them to receive a notification. Maybe if the meeting can't be archived for whatever meeting, I want to block them to keep them from joining that session. There's a lot of customability. There's a lot of customization here to be able to define the user experience, again, based on your regulatory or industry requirements for your organization.
Just to sum it up, I think one of the core pillars that Zoom has really really pushed this year is that TCO conversation, is that total cost of ownership for not only the cost of the overall software, right? Somebody has to buy Zoom and somebody has to buy Theta Lake, and that's the first part of the cost. And everyone's always concerned about, hey, what's the license cost? What most people don't think about is, okay, great, I own it. Now who's deploying all these things? And once it's deployed, who's maintaining and administering and operating all these things? Who's supporting all these things? Because guess what? Those costs, deployment and maintenance costs, are much higher than the licensing cost itself. So again, in good Zoom fashion, with our partnership with you guys, we've lowered that total cost of ownership when compared to our competitors as well.
Yeah, and they're native features. Yeah, you're spot on there, Patrick. So there's no other licensing or third or fourth party integrators or vendors that you have to include. This is native to the Zoom platform, and all of those archiving features that we just looked at, Theta Lake leverages those public APIs, those REST APIs, to then capture that content, again, whatever features you've selected, and that's a native cloud-to-cloud connection. So as we go here kind of over to a live demo, let me go ahead and share my screen. So let's just say, as an example, I'm a regulated user. I'm going to ad hoc join an internal meeting or an external meeting, or I have a scheduled meeting maybe with a potential client and I'm a regulated user. As soon as that meeting starts, you'll notice here, let me go ahead and leave my audio so that we don't get feedback here. You'll notice that as an end user, I don't have the ability to stop this archiving session from happening. So as we talked about that custom disclaimer, or those links that I want included, or documents that I want redirected so that users know, hey, this is being archived, here's the purpose of it, we're a regulated industry, whatever your legal team or your security team requires, that's going to pop up here visually. And then you have the ability to either play an audible sound or not as part of the features included natively within Zoom's archiving. So as this session is being live archived here, this will then, as we set up the integration through Theta Lake, as soon as this session's over, Theta Lake will go and grab that content. So anything that's been seen, heard, spoken, shown, screen shared, in-meeting chat, direct messages, all of that will now flow into the Theta Lake system, and we keep it in full fidelity native content. And so that way you have historical context of the conversation, what led up to a screen share, what led up to a direct message, or maybe a chat reaction, or just a reaction in general. Yep. All of that interaction is going to be compliantly captured and then viewable in the Theta Lake system. Let's go ahead and pull up what that looks like over in the Theta Lake system. So here's the Theta Lake native e-discovery, or our search that we have built into the platform. So as we were talking about the integration where it's set up, integrated, Theta Lake has permission to capture these archived meetings for users. This is where I have a team chat that we can use as an example. As part of the content capture, we get everything direct back and forth from users, messages, replies, direct messages even. So if we have two users using the private or the direct message chat feature, all of that's going to be compliantly captured here. I also can see all of these attributes that's included as part of the metadata from the response we get from Zoom. So I can see that there's a text file. It was from the chat archive. I get universal IDs, so UUIDs of content. I can also see things like timestamps, the account, all of that information will be included here. As it comes into the Theta Lake system, all of this is now searchable. So even if it's a video and audio is on, any Theta Lake will actually scrape everything frame by frame. So if somebody were to hold up a specific document and we can read the words on it, you can actually search for that in keywords using our advanced search parameters here. So you can include things like participants, platforms, features, maybe specific identifiers for users, first name, last name, email address, UUIDs, and things to that effect. It'll show up here directly within the search platform of Theta Lake. Here I had one as well. I just wanted to show you real quick. This was a test webinar. So this one we were looking at was a chat that was happening. This was the meeting that it happened in. Here's a webinar that was also archived as part of my regulatory requirements. And then here's the transcript that Theta Lake generates. So again, anything that happens as part of that archived event is now searchable. So as that user goes external and maybe has access to sensitive information, administratively, my organization is going to be able to see all of the interaction that happened within that live Zoom meeting. And now I can compliantly review that. I can escalate that to a legal hold if something was shared that was sensitive information or data loss and that needs a legal review. All of that can be done directly from the Theta Lake web portal here.
Well, this is brilliant, and again, thank you for showcasing some of these cool things. I don't get to play in this space much, so anytime you show something, I do learn, and I love how that it's how it's integrated literally natively with the Zoom platform. So the implementation, administration, and operation is really pretty straightforward.
It's really a set it and forget it. And the integration, we can set it up at the account group or user level. So there's a lot of flexibility. And then once it's set up, that's done. You don't have to touch it. Content will come into the Theta Lake system, go down to your existing archive of record or stay in Theta Lake, whatever the customer prefers. And then from there, you don't have to touch anything. It's an easy graphical user interface to navigate. So it's extremely intuitive. And it really is a plug and play solution compared to the kind of the legacy systems that are out there. So it's one of, I'm glad the opportunity that we could come and talk about the specific use case of follow the user. So internal to external is all compliantly captured, and then setup and configuration is not daunting. It's very turnkey, very easy. And even an end user who's not technically inclined could do it. But should you need help, reach out to either your Zoom account representative or engineer or Theta Lake, and we're happy to help walk you through it because we do have that tight partnership, and we'll make it even easier for you if you need help.
Well, okay, great. So now we're down 2 videos, Anthony, and I'm going to be presumptive here and assume there's even more to show when it comes to Theta Lake and Zoom. And so why don't you drop a teaser to what's going to happen on our next video?
I would love to. So we have, with our strategic partnership, there's a lot of enhancements that are coming out. Zoom Phone is booming right now. Everyone's looking to consolidate their phone offering or get off of their on-premise solutions and go out to the cloud. Again, total cost of ownership, management, overhead, cost of on-prem phone solutions. So in our next one, we're actually going to be talking Zoom Phone and Zoom Phone Contact Center. So as we talk specifically about migrating out to the cloud, leveraging the power that Zoom Phone and their contact center solution has to offer, we can also compliantly capture all of that communication as well, included things like SMS text messaging. And we're going to walk you through a demo, how to set up the integration, how to set up those granular connections on catching or capturing specific content from Zoom Phone and Contact Center, and looking at things like call detail records or call logs that are represented in the Theta Lake system in a graphical user interface. So it'll be a little bit longer than this one, and I'm stoked to be able to be back on you to kind of do a live demo again.
I pulled the classic villain move on every single Marvel movie where I asked you to explain your evil plan and you totally did. I've totally entrapped you and I know who your boss is. So now you're on the hook for it.
Yeah, now we're going to have to do it and follow through with it. We're committed. Exactly. We're going down this path.
Anthony, thanks again. Always a pleasure, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and I can't wait for the next one.
I hope you enjoyed that interview. That was enlightening to me, and I learned a lot about Theta Lake integration with that Zoom interface. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, follow me on LinkedIn. If you really liked it, subscribe to my YouTube channel, listed above in the description. I am a distinguished architect for Zoom. I do work for Zoom full-time. I am not a figurehead or a spokesman for Zoom. I just like to talk about cool technology, and a lot of times that has to deal with Zoom. Have a great day.